Welcome to Lucidity Talk Show, NoOps for Cloud, where we talk about everything cloud infrastructure related with a special focus on storage. Today, we're in conversation with Ajay Jamble, Program Manager and CISO at NuWare. NuWare is an enterprise application and cloud infrastructure management company based out of New Jersey. Ajay is here with us to shed some light on some of the most pressing problems in managing cloud infrastructure.
DevOps is still a bigger part of the whole operations, whether you call it as infra DevOps or the actual DevOps, right? But yes, management of the cloud infrastructure is mostly manual, unless and until it is we use a lot of automation tools, and that maturity is not right from day one. So people would like to start small, but in no time they kind of become so big that re-architecturing would be difficult. So they stick with DevOps, they stick with the manual process. So what, see, most of the thing mover we have seen at least 30-40%, maybe little more than 40-45% should be manual. But everybody's focus, even our focus, is to automate the whole process, right? As you always say, from DevOps to NoOps. Right, I think so. That's the focus area, but that will take a lot of maturity and tools and services, collaboration with products, and it cannot just happen by itself. Ideally, somewhere like 30-50%. It's a big size, right? Because data is storage, right? And data becomes critical. As long as compute is critical too, but data is something which keeps expanding, right? And normally we see in our cases at least 40 to 50% is average storage cost, the overall storage cost that we see with our customers. See, for us, it's mostly it starts as simple as storing log files, mounting your databases, your applications, right? Or whether it is your Kubernetes cluster and some of those services that we use EBS for, right? Or it could be as simple as dumping some data, because wherever we see, wherever there is no need for an RDS kind of service, instead of using an S3, people would use EBS because of encryption facility and a couple of ease of doing things there, right? But eventually, what will happen is that will increase the cost, right? It will go as low as 10-15% of the total cost, and can go as high as 40-50%. 40-45% of total storage cost, right? So it varies. Smaller organizations, they would like to have a smaller EBS mounted on their servers. That will eventually grow, because one drive mounted, they end up mounting another 4 drives or maybe 5 drives, right? It all is like how the development activity happens, how the need for that server to behave depends, right? So it goes in a larger number for bigger organizations, and multiple reasons too. There are basically 2 challenges. One is prediction of a required EBS volume. It's very difficult, right? It's very difficult for any company or any project unless and until they have that maturity of knowing their data and kind of assessing what should be the size, which is again difficult. Even then, we always do the N+1 model. The safer bet people company for the N+1 model, right? So we always oversize our storage, right? And what will happen? 50-60% of that storage is never being used, right? We always keep expanding that. We always keep extending that. So people come back and say that my bills are bills are never low. I mean, I am kind of paying so much on storage, but when you go back and do an assessment, at least 50-60% of their storage is never being utilized. So that is one challenge, right? The second challenge is when there is a need, they cannot seamlessly expand their storage, right? It becomes very difficult for them to expand or shrink when there is a need, right? They really have to plan the expansion such a way that it needs a change request, right? Typically, as at this point, AWS, it needs a change, it needs a reboot, right? So the change request process do hinder some of their activities, because companies, bigger giants, bigger organizations, there's a well-defined change request process, right? They cannot bypass that. They need to take application clearance from multiple departments. They have to fix a date. They should bring every team member into time. Then they have to execute the task, then test the whole application, then bring back the service. This takes up a lot of human time, right? So like 4 departments working on that given particular assignment is lots of human time, and that has to be reduced. I think so. That's the challenge that I have seen from people saying it needs to be reduced at some point or the other. Obviously, it all depends upon what kind of mounts they are used. I mean, if they are now migrated to GP3, they will have some performance. But yes, they will complain if the database increases by its size. I'm sure they will complain about performance issues in their ABS volumes. The decision making, when there is a need for high performance, right? The choices within AWS are little limited, right? Either I am using GP2, either I have to migrate to GP3. I'm still not happy with the performance, and is the only option, right? So there is no in between path with people or projects can take to enhance the performance, right? And AWS also gives you a fixed IOPS, and I have seen people coming back to us and saying, yes, there is a performance issue. They tried using the best of the compute power, but still their application's response is a little slow. But and also the factors. See, not every customer would like to just increase their compute or storage power as is, right? Because cost plays a very crucial role here, right? I'm saying they may not have that budget allocated to use the best of the AWS services, but still they want to use the best of the performance, or they still want to get the best of the performance from services on AWS. So that's actually a great challenge for application development team and the infra team to manage this balance between cost and performance. See, ideal solution is something where it could auto expand by itself based on the capacity. See, if somebody, okay, now our typical mindset, right, we all come from the old data center model, right? So it's always N+1 model. If I buy a disk, I'll always say, and much older than people will always say mirroring, right? So it's always N+1. I buy one disk, I buy another disk, I mirror them, so that there's always chance that one disk fails, the other one will have the data. Then you extended striping and all that came in, but we still feel with the kind of need people have, and very dynamic need, right? See, whether we would have provisioned what, 50% storage of the total requirement, or maybe 100% storage. Suddenly the need becomes 300%, right? Or suddenly the need drops to 50%. You still end up paying for the remaining cost, right? So a dynamic expansion of the storage based on the need would be an ideal solution, right? Which I doubt AWS haven't come out yet. They are they don't have anything. They have something, but that's not a foolproof, right? It doesn't happen that seamlessly. It doesn't happen by itself without too much of operation overheads. See, one is two things that excited me is, one is the way Lucidity product seamlessly expanded my storage and shrink it when there was no need. And it happened so seamlessly that we either felt the expansion, we either felt the performance dip, neither we could see anything unusual happening on my application. One. Two is the kind of performance it added on, right? You say your 10x performance, right? So that is an added value, right? Instead of I taking the decision of going into an IO2, you kind of solved my problem by giving me that X speed, 10x speed with the existing storage, right? So those are the two things that really excites us to evaluate or use the product from Lucidity, right? And a nice dashboard to view what's happening. I think so. That was another factor, I would say. I am seeing what is happening there, right? It tells me when it expanded, when it shrunk. I can actually correlate what happened at that time, right? Why it did. So that kind of gives me that visibility in the system, because I mean, the team does it, we monitor it, right? And if you don't know what's happening, we will not be able to give our inputs to the development team or the other groups in the system. So this dashboard that you have built, your technology that you have set up for expand and shrink, and your performance upgradation are some three factors I would like to highlight to use the product. So we mounted our Postgres database on this, and we did kind of test it with our, not kind of a test data, but it was more or less very similar to the actual prod application, and we did multiple tests on it. We kind of applied load, set some thresholds, made sure that it expands at that given threshold, and it kind of shrinks when it comes below that, right? And that parallelly, my DBA team was running some performance activities to make sure that the DBA is not taking a hit, right? When in this process, when it is expanding or shrinking, my application basically is not taking the hit. So 3-4 factors were defined. It was a well-defined case study, and we got the results that we wanted. See, the way it is happening now, right? If it can happen on a larger spectrum, like a EFS, right? That would also help us, right? Not limiting ourselves to only ABS, because there are many customers who are primarily using Windows as a service, so they would mount FSx on the service on their servers. So if this can go on FSx, why not? I see it is going to happen, right? Very shortly, because the kind of automation, earlier, as simple as provision a server or an instance 8 years back, I would go to console and I would do that. I would spin an instance by clicking few buttons. Now we do it. It does by itself, like you use Terraforms or use any other format to move, right? Earlier we would do I remember we used to have this build managers to do the build, right? So I played that role too, right? You would go collect all the build development activities for that day and integrate them and push the build. Now you have CI/CD, your code build, everything is taken care, right? Now see the amount of number of people that you need, right? Earlier we had a very large operational team to manage a large enterprise. Now you just need many number of people to manage a very large enterprise, right? And the only thing is if this MI and AI and ML picks up very hard, right, very strongly, I'm sure NoOps is not very far from all of us, right? I think so that actual application, the real use cases of an AI and ML should come in. Yes, good. There are scientifically they have proved it's going well. It's wonderful. There are many cases, test cases, many examples that they have set of using AI and ML. Real-time cases where a common individual can use them, right? Not just an app or a chat app or a chat bot or that's not something like that. If that should be the focus, I think so. Once that gets into action, NoOps is not too far.
And that's it for today. Hope you enjoyed tuning into the talk. We'll be back with more such insights from top industry experts across the globe. Subscribe to the Lucidity newsletter to get the latest updates on new shows, industry case studies, and a whole host of other thought leadership content.